ago, when the Queen herself appointed Holmes as the protector of the realm. Specifically, she charged my friend with protecting her son and the royal family while they represented her interests in Portsmouth. Rather than congratulating his brother, Mycroft Holmes's fleshy face scowled when the Queen announced the appointment. I was puzzled by Mycroft's disapproval. He'd never shown any sign that he was jealous of his younger brother. Although Sherlock and Mycroft both have often been asked to assist the royal family many times in the past, this particular task was one that my friend accepted only grudgingly. The concerns were indeed weighty, and the beastly heat had worn my friend's nerves to a frazzle. I am sure that Holmes noticed his brother's disapproval, but we lacked an opportunity to quiz him about his displeasure, because Mycroft Holmes was still in conference with Her Majesty when we were dismissed from Windsor Castle. I tried to discuss the matter with Holmes, but I was flummoxed at every turn. Holmes is typically impervious to such trivial matters as the weather. However, on this particular day the climbing temperatures had worn his temper to a frazzle. Rather than irritate him further, I decided my worries could wait a day or two. "Watson!" bellowed Holmes as we burst into the flat. He dove upon the divan. "Draw the curtains and allow some shade to cool these infernal rooms. Get me a wet cloth to put over my eyes, won't you?" Although his tendency to order me about can annoy me greatly, this time I did as asked, knowing that he was fighting one of his many migraines. Once he was situated, I stood at the open window and watched people as they gamely went about their business with stoop-shouldered determination under the scorching June sun. Since I had served in Afghanistan during the war, the oppressive heat was not as debilitating to me as it was to my friend. It was under these most uncomfortable circumstances that I found myself to be on the receiving end of one of my friend's most sudden, foul moods. "Watson, what must I do to earn your sympathy? Must I, with my last dying breath, with parched and blistered lips, beg you to do as I ask? Will you kindly draw the curtains and let me die in the cooling shadows? Please!" "Holmes, you're impossible," was my peevish retort, as I snapped shut the curtains. "Everyone is suffering this weather, but you don't hear them caterwauling on about it." "Most probably," Holmes groaned. "They are not howling in protest because their minds are too addled and parched to muster even the weakest cry. We will not be attending the Jubilee if this weather doesn't break. In fact, no one will." Of course, I knew nothing would keep my friend from attending the Queen's celebration. Protecting the royals while they were at Portsmouth for the Jubilee was an incredible honour. And of course Holmes had given his word. The ferocity of his peevish complaining caused me to chuckle at the absurdity of his threat. "Holmes," I cried, "is this the man who captured the notorious Villaggio?" I was referring, of course, to the mysterious case of the murdered maestro. It was due to Holmes's renowned reputation, his insistence, and his unbridled admiration of the ageing François Dulac that the doctors agreed to allow Holmes to observe the autopsy of the violinist. Holmes's keen interest in the macabre and his intimate knowledge of poisons led him to deduce that the maestro hadn't died of gastric fever. Of course, the doctors quickly confirmed that Holmes was right. Once Dulac's death was determined to be murder, Holmes was immediately on the case. As it happened, Maestro Dulac's health had seemed frail and his limited income had been dwindling, so he entered into a financial arrangement with Villaggio, his long-time friend. Villaggio agreed to pay a monthly income of £20 to the maestro for the rest of his life, en viager. In return, Dulac's grand apartments and their contents would become Villaggio's property when the maestro died. Unfortunately for the schemer, Dulac lived longer than expected. What had seemed to be an ideal arrangement inevitably placed a financial strain on Villaggio. After growing more and more resentful and desperate, Villaggio hatched a deadly plan. He cleverly mixed arsenic with the violinist's bow resin. Thus the maestro unwittingly inhaled the toxic dust when he performed his aptly called farewell tour. If it hadn't been for Holmes's love of the violin and his regard for the maestro, Villaggio would surely have gotten away with murder. When confronted with the evidence, Villaggio quickly confessed, and the case was closed. Once again, Holmes had proven himself to be peerless when it came to solving crimes. "How about a fire?" I asked laughingly as I pointed to the hearth. "That's what you need, a crackling blaze to ward off the chill in your bones. You have a cruel streak running through your black..."